Hey everyone, it's JR. As we start doing a little bit more solo content for the OHIO podcast, I volunteered to start doing some basketball content for you guys. To start off, we're going to do an episode on Chris Holtmann, kind of why he left, what we can expect going forward this season, when will we get the next head coach, and then some predictions for who I think the next head coach will be, and then some guys that I think their names will get floated out there, but I just don't think it's actually as big of a possibility as some other people might say it is. So I'm going to try to put one of these videos out for you guys every single week. Hopefully on Thursdays. We'll see how the schedule works out, but that's what we'll try to do. And I just want to talk Ohio State basketball, some men's basketball, might even do some women's basketball, but just talk basketball and put some information out there about that. It's going to be an interesting stretch going forward, and it's going to be fun to think about. So let's start first with why was Chris Holtmann fired? To start off, one of the reasons why Chris Holtmann was fired, and some of this I'm hearing, and others of this I heard from Gene Smith and his press conference that he did after Chris Holtmann was fired. And essentially what you heard and what I've been told is that Gene just wanted new leadership. He wanted a new coach, somebody out there for the team that he felt could lead them to where they need to be, because he felt like what he did, firing Chris Holtmann this early, is what was best for the kids. It was really, really hard for Gene. When Gene was in the press conference, they asked him about personally firing Chris Holtmann, and I mean, he was visibly, verbally upset, and not like mad, but just like sad that he had to fire Chris Holtmann. So that was a big thing that you kind of gained from this entire press conference, is that Gene Smith was kind of lamenting this, not so much because he felt like it's the wrong move. I didn't get that, but just because he really does feel like Chris Holtmann is a great guy. And I want to make sure that we know that, is that Chris Holtmann really is a great person. He's very respectable on and off the court, always makes time for media. I have spoken to him once or twice before and had nothing but good things to say about him afterward. He did an interview for my Big Ten Huddle podcast where we talk about Big Ten stuff, not just Ohio State, but everything overall. And he's been very gracious to me and always been willing to help new media members and stuff like that. So, Chris Holtmann is widely regarded as a very good character individual in the coaching community, and not just by the coaches, but by the players and by the media as well. And you could tell that Gene does have a deep care for Chris Holtmann based off his press conference. In addition to that, one of the reasons why they felt comfortable with moving on from Chris Holtmann is because Jake Diebler accepted the challenge. And to be honest, they believe in Jake Diebler. They have confidence in Jake Diebler. Many of these players have close relationships with Jake Diebler. Jake Diebler is more of a cornerstone piece of this program than I think people realize. And we might be saying, oh, well, why do we want a corner piece of the program to be coaching if the program has not looked all that good the past two seasons? And while, yes, there is some reason to believe that, the players seem to believe very much so in Jake Diebler. And so that was kind of the sentiment you got from Gene Smith, is that he wants to do right by these players for the rest of the season, because he really does believe that Jake Diebler can possibly get them to the tournament, and if nothing else, to an NIT bid, and keep the games rolling from there. So essentially, what can we expect going forward this season? This is going to be a little bit of Jake Diebler's audition for the job. If he feels like he wants the job, if he feels like he can take the job, this is going to be his audition. And don't sleep on that opportunity to happen if this team looks very different this season, because Gene Smith was adamant that this team has talent. This team is underachieving what they should be achieving this season, and that was one of the reasons they moved on. And they want to get the fans back involved, because they've seen the arena that 8,000 people a game is not something that they want every single game. Now, it's not a bad attendance. It does look empty with the 18,000 person arena, but they definitely want to get the fans back there more. And when they bring in top tier teams, they want to make sure that place is rocking and has a loud environment. And so they want to be able to give the fans somebody to believe in. They don't want the chance of fire Holtmann and things like that. They want the fans to feel like they can believe in something and for the players to feel that as well. And so for Gene, the goal is still an NCAA tournament berth to get to the NCAA tournament. And if not that, at least get to the NIT tournament. He's not satisfied with being somebody in the Big Ten tournament who doesn't have a bye at all. He doesn't think that they should be a team that's in the bottom four playing in the first night of the tournament. And so for him, he believes that this team is better than that, and they need new leadership to make that happen. So when will we get the next head coach? Is that going to happen soon? Is that something that's going to take a little while? It is going to take some time. We are not going to get a new coach announced until the end of the season. One of the big reasons why is because there will be nothing happening with this until Ross Bjork arrives in March. I believe Ross Bjork arrives March 1st, and that's when things are really going to start getting to roll or get rolling with everything. Now they can only talk to so many coaches so much and things like that. In reality, you're really not supposed to talk to coaches until the season's over. But we all know back channel things happen in college sports. So we'll see what goes on there. But make no mistake, this will be Ross Bjork's hire. Ross Bjork will lead the search with Gene's assistance. And Gene was pressed on that in the press conference. And he finally did say, yes, this will be Ross Bjork's hire, and I will be assisting him. And so not only are we looking at who is Ohio State going to hire, but who in Ross Bjork's past has he hired? Who has he been willing to hire? And it's a little dicey because Ross Bjork was willing to hire Buzz Williams. That could be a possibility. However, his name does not show up on the odds list as high as some other names. So let's go through the sports line odds for the head coaching job at Ohio State really fast. Number one at 250 plus 250 odds, Lamont Paris. Then comes Sean Miller, Dusty May, Chris Mack, Buzz Williams, Wes Miller, Greg McDermott, Scooney Penn, Anthony Grant, Nate Oates, Eric Musselman, John Schertz, and Pat Kelsey. All of these guys are good options in my book. I wouldn't say all of them are home runs. I wouldn't say all of them I would be satisfied with, but all of them are pretty good options to go off of. The guys that I think will be the favorites, number one, I think Buzz Williams, and this isn't necessarily in any certain type of order, but the first guy that I think will at least be an option is probably Buzz Williams. I have some hesitancy with the recruiting violation that he had, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And the possibility of Ross Bjork hiring somebody who has had a violation like that, just because Ohio State, they are so, so much into compliance and not getting caught with any type of violations or cheating or anything like that. That might hinder them being able to hire Buzz Williams. We'll see what happens. And then, of course, what happened with him at Virginia Tech as well. I would not sleep on the fact that we might see a return of Thad Matta. Thad Matta was the winningest head coach, or is the winningest head coach in Ohio State history. And he had a great career here. And unfortunately, things ended before people really wanted him to because of his health. And don't get me wrong, Thad Matta being, fired and let go when he was best for both parties. Thad Matta needed to get his health in order, but he's done a good job with Butler. The first season, they had a losing record, 14-18, but now so far this season, they're under 10 losses and have 16 wins. And for a Butler program that was really struggling when he found himself there, that's a good improvement. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out a Thad Matta return, but I also wouldn't bank on it either. Chris Mack is another name. Chris Mack brought Xavier to be a 1 seed at one point. He's a very good coach. Now, he did end things a little rocky about 2 years ago at Louisville when he was fired there. But in reality, Chris Mack didn't get fired for multiple bad seasons. He got fired for one bad season at Louisville, and we've seen how terrible that program has been since then. But I would not rule out Chris Mack. I think Chris Mack is an option. Dusty May from Florida Atlantic would be an option. Now, everybody thinks, Dusty May, Indiana guy, probably set to go to Indiana, former manager under Bob Knight, and that's possible. However, at the same time, this is a Big Ten job with big money, big opportunities, and it's a pretty fertile recruiting ground. Ohio puts out pretty good high school talent. It's not the best, but it's still good. And then he's also next to Indiana and some other states like Chicago or like Illinois, where the basketball is strong there as well, and things like that can work out for them. And then finally, my other favorite, who is at the top of the odds leaderboard, is Lamont Paris from Ohio, somebody who has done a fantastic job this season. He took Michi Johnson after Michi Johnson left Ohio State, and he has just become a star at South Carolina there. And this is somebody that I think Ohio State is going to take a deep, long look at. And Ross Bjork seems to have familiarity with coming from the SEC. So I would not be surprised if we find ourselves with a Lamont Paris hire here at the end of the season. But even if that happens, we'd have to wait a little while, obviously, because of the tournament and things like that. A few guys that I doubt Ohio State will hire, one of them being Eric Musselman. If you don't know the history of Eric Musselman and his father, Bill Musselman coached at Minnesota back in the 70s. And in 1972, Ohio State went to Minnesota, and there was a huge brawl that actually ended with Ohio State players being hospitalized. I don't know if that carries a whole lot of weight still with the university, but it definitely wouldn't be a good look having the former Bill Musselman leading the team that Ohio State got into a brawl with for Eric Musselman to then become the head coach. I'm not going to say that it's for sure not going to happen, but I would kind of doubt that we would get Eric Musselman, if nothing else, but for the family history there. The other name is Nate Oates. I feel like Nate Oates has a little bit of a similar job situation with Alabama, a team that or a school that is ruled by football, where he can be a good head coach there. But another piece of that is everything that happened last year with Brandon Miller and guys being let loose from the team because of, the murder investigation, all those things that happened there. I think that's been too close for Ohio State to really consider him. Who knows? Ross Bjork might have a different spin on it, but I would say if Gene Smith is involved the way he makes it sound like he's involved, I don't think that Ohio State will be looking for Nate Oates to be the new head coach. And then finally, a guy that I know his name has been mentioned a lot, but I kind of doubt it, even though I don't think he would be a terrible hire, is Sean Miller from Xavier. Sean Miller has a lot of baggage, like I said, with the cheating of previous coaches and some of the off the court stuff. Sean Miller had the FBI investigation, those different kinds of things go on, which ultimately led him to being dismissed at Arizona. Now he's at Xavier. Xavier had a good season last year. They're struggling this season. But I can see if Ohio State offers the job to Sean Miller, he'll take it. But I just don't think Sean Miller would be super high on Ross Bjork's list. It's not somebody that I think Ohio State will be super high on either. So those are kind of my thoughts and what I've been hearing around the Ohio State basketball program. So if you have any thoughts, please do comment below. Let us know what you think. If you have somebody that you would like to be the coach, please do comment and let us know. I think that there's a lot of good coaching options out there. Ohio State is a top 20-ish job in the nation, so they should have a good pick of guys to go after. I'm not going to say that they're going to get somebody like Jay Wright, because I think Jay Wright is probably very happy doing media and stuff like that, but I could definitely see them picking somebody from a high major job, from a Big East job, something like that, and coming in to be the head coach of Ohio State next season. Like I said, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any names that you would like to see as the head coach, please do comment those and let us know. Thanks for listening to JR in Basketball.